that the Minister of the FCT, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, means well for Rivers State. He wants peace. He wants the state to move forward. Let me also make it clear and inform Rivers people that within the pendency of the emergency rule, His Excellency Nyesom Wike also summoned a meeting of all the members of the Rivers State Assembly. 27 of us were present in that meeting in the official residence of the FCT minister in Abuja. The governor was in that meeting. The governor sat with us. We had a meeting with the governor. All the members present were so shocked hearing the governor saying that no meeting has been called. Let me also inform Rivers people that after the emergency rule, the FCT minister also caused a meeting to take place at the residence of Chief Alabrada in his residence here in GRA Port Harcourt. We also had a meeting of the Elders Council. In that meeting, some members of the assembly, the principal officers, myself, I was in that meeting, deputy speaker was there, the leader was in that meeting. How many meetings have I mentioned? How many meetings does the governor want the FCT minister to call for him to do the needful?
The latest catch we have in the APC, the latest catch, we set a trap to catch a frog. We caught an elephant. We caught an elephant in the person of Sir Siminalayi Fubara. Welcome to the fold of the progressive, sir. Welcome to the big family. Welcome to the largest party in Africa. I was there this morning when you received your membership card.
Even that of the state here. Let me be very particular. The state members of the House of Assembly, I do not have any issue with them. I have made every effort to meet with them. But the arrangement wasn't for me to call them directly. It was for my leader, minister, to arrange it, which up till this hour, that meeting has not been fixed. So when people go about saying, I don't want to meet them, thing, I don't want to attend to them, I don't want to meet their demand, that is pure lie. I don't have any reason to do that. I personally said whatever is their need, whatever it is that they need, I'm ready to meet it so that we can have peace in the state.
We discussed with him in the meeting, say, look, bring your budget so that we can take care of all you intend to do for the remaining part of 2025. There in that meeting, the governor told us blatantly that he will not do it, that he will not bring a budget. God is my witness. As I speak here, God is here, and God knows I'm not lying against the governor. Where the governor is, governor knows I'm not lying against him. I shouldn't have brought all this to the fore because we are trying to see how we can mend fences and move the state forward.
In Nigerian politics, defections are common. They happen so often that citizens barely react anymore. But every once in a while, a defection lands differently. Not because of the party involved, but because of who loses power silently. Siminalayi Fubara's defection from PDP to the APC is one of those moments. On the surface, it looks simple. A governor changes party to protect his seats, stabilizes government, and align with the center, like they always say. But beneath that surface lies a much deeper political earthquake. One that, if managed carefully, could dismantle the influence of one of Nigeria's most controversial political godfathers, Nyesom Wike. This is not a story about loyalty or betrayal. This is a story about power shifting hands without a fight. So it seems on paper. And if Fubara plays his card well, history may record this defection not as a surrender, but as an escape. To understand how Fubara's defection can hurt Wike, we must first understand how Wike's power actually works. Wike's influence has never depended on holding office alone. In fact, some would argue his power grew strongly after leaving office. His strength came from four pillars: control of party structures, loyalty of lawmakers, political fear, and the myth of inevitability. As governor, Wike installed loyalists everywhere, from PDP hierarchy to the state assembly. When Fubara emerged as governor, he didn't inherit full authority, he inherited conditions. Wike remained the invisible hand, deciding who moved, who stalled, who resisted. And the goal was simple: rule without responsibility. But this system only works inside the same political house. Once Fubara walked out of the PDP, Wike lost his strongest weapon, internal sabotage. This is the first crack. Many expected Fubara to confront Wike publicly, to expose, to accuse and escalate. He didn't do that, especially in this first battle, so it seemed. Instead, he took the most dangerous route for a godfather. He left quietly. By defecting to the APC, Fubara removed himself from PDP disciplinary control. He neutralized internal battle weapons. He changed the battlefield entirely. Wike thrives in chaos. He thrives when loyalty is questioned and fear is amplified. But defection removes fear because the threat no longer applies. So it seems this is why the move is more dangerous than open rebellion. There is no fight for Wike to win. There is no war to dominate. Only influence slowly evaporating. And in Nigerian politics, irrelevance kills faster than opposition. The APC is not a moral alternative to the PDP, but it is a structural shield. Inside APC, power is transactional and federal-backed. For Fubara, this means access to federal legitimacy, protection from the legislative blackmail, a new alliance map, and more importantly, APC already has internal factions in Rivers State. If Fubara plays this carefully, he doesn't need to destroy them. He only needs to balance them by distributing influence. Some structures stabilize, others dissolve naturally. And here is the key danger for Wike. Once Fubara controls ward and local government structures ahead of party congresses, Wike loses his ground truths. At that point, Wike becomes a national figure without a state base, and that is a political exile. The River State House of Assembly was once Wike's sharpest weapon. Through loyal lawmakers, instability was manufactured, threats of impeachment, parallel settings, legal confusions, but APC alignment changes everything. Lawmakers from the outlook seems to be fighting against Wike. They follow the survival, they follow relevance. Once again, we use the word so it seems. Once Fubara offers party cover, federal protection, political future, loyalty begins to shift once more. Maybe not loudly, not dramatically, but decisively. When the assembly stabilized under Fubara and the APC in Rivers State, both at the federal level, backs Fubara fully, Wike loses the one tool that could force obedience, and without fear, influence collapses. Politics is ultimately about elections. If Fubara secures the APC ticket, delivers Rivers State votes, governs without crisis, then Wike's bargaining power shrinks dramatically. Why? Because APC rewards delivery, not noise. A governor who controls a strategic state is more valuable than a minister who controls headlines. By 2027, Wike risks becoming influential but replaceable, loud but less needed, respected but bypassed. This is how political errors end, not with arrests or scandals, but with quiet sidelining. This entire strategy works only if Fubara avoids one mistake: ego. If he insults Wike publicly, the war restarts. If he rushes revenge, resistance hardens. If he overplays power, sympathy shifts. But if he stays calm, distributes power slowly, and builds loyalty patiently, then history may remember this moment as the day a godfather lost control without firing a shot. Fubara's defection is not just about APC. It is about ending remote control politics. And if played well, it could quietly redraw Rivers' political future forever.